You've been doing your best, reading the labels, cutting out the junk, reaching for the so-called healthy options that everyone insists are good for you. Maybe it's whole grain cereal in the morning, a low-fat yogurt cup in the afternoon, and a lean frozen meal in the evening. You feel responsible, cautious, aware. But what if I told you that some of these very choices, these seemingly safe and even celebrated habits, are silently putting pressure on the most vital organ in your body? Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a slow, creeping rhythm. A tension building behind the scenes day after day that your heart is quietly struggling to manage. It's the kind of stress you don't feel in your chest like a stabbing pain. You feel it more like an invisible weight on your energy, your breath, your sleep. You get winded faster, your blood pressure edges up, and you chalk it up to aging. But this isn't just age. This is your body waving a quiet flag, trying to tell you that something in your daily rhythm, something you trust, isn't helping anymore. And the hardest part? You've been told it's the right thing to do, that it's healthy, that it's better than what you used to eat, that you're doing the right thing by avoiding fat, choosing low-cal, going light. But hidden in these choices is a stress a few people talk about, the rise of nutrient-poor, inflammation-triggering foods dressed up as healthy. It's the popular diet mistake no one warns you about. Over-relying on highly processed, low-fat, sugar-laden health foods that promise energy, heart safety, and weight control, but deliver chemical stress, blood sugar swings, and metabolic confusion instead. Your heart, especially after 60, depends on stability, on nourishment that calms rather than excites, on foods that slow the system down, not keep it wired and imbalanced. And that balance is easily thrown off by a daily diet that spikes and crashes your internal chemistry, even if you never touch a soda or fried food again. So let's walk through this together. Let's uncover how even smart, health-conscious seniors can fall into this well-laid trap. Not because they're careless, but because they've been misled. Your body has changed. Your heart has different needs now. And this hidden dietary stressor may be what's been quietly standing in the way of your energy, clarity, and peace. Let's begin. It started with good intentions. The food industry caught on to our collective fear of fat and filled the shelves with alternatives. Low fat, fat-free, heart-healthy. The promises were bold, comforting, and seductive. But in the rush to remove fat, something had to take its place, and that something, more often than not, was sugar. Not the kind you spoon into coffee, but the kind woven deep into yogurts, cereals, sauces, and snacks that look innocent on the outside. And for seniors, this swap can quietly destabilize the very organ you're trying to protect. Fat used to be the villain, but for an aging heart, the real enemy is imbalance. Blood sugar highs and lows, insulin spikes, cortisol surges. These internal storms don't always feel dramatic, but over time, they wear the heart down. And that's what happens when your day is lined with healthy meals that are secretly overloaded with refined carbs and added sugars. The morning starts with a blood sugar spike, followed by a crash, then the fatigue, then the craving, and the cycle starts all over again. It's a rhythm your younger body may have tolerated. But now, it's a form of internal stress that leaves your cardiovascular system struggling to find its footing. What most people don't realize is that this kind of metabolic whiplash doesn't always show up as weight gain. It shows up in subtler ways, your blood pressure creeping up, your cholesterol profile shifting, your energy fading by mid-afternoon. And the tragedy is you think you're doing it right. You bought the yogurt with the heart symbol, you chose the crackers that said whole grain, you avoided the full-fat milk. But inside your body, your insulin was working overtime, your arteries were stiffening, and your heart was quietly carrying the cost of that decision. The good news, you're not trapped. The moment you begin to see this pattern for what it is, not failure, not aging, but a mismatched diet, you regain control. Your heart isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for peace, for steady fuel, for food that calms the system instead of firing it up. And that begins by rethinking what healthy really means now. You've seen the packaging, bright colors, smiling faces, check marks, and promises of heart-smart benefits. Crackers with oats, granola bars with flax, protein shakes with plant-based labels. They sit on the shelf in tidy rows, whispering reassurance. But behind the sleek design and clever marketing is a hard truth. Many of these so-called heart-healthy snacks are little more than sugar in disguise. And for a heart over 60, that disguise is dangerous. Because what used to give you a little lift now becomes a quiet, chronic drain. The stress your heart feels doesn't always come from the big moments. Sometimes it's in the small daily hits, those blood sugar swings after a light snack, the spike in cortisol from ingredients your body doesn't recognize, the constant low-grade inflammation that simmers just beneath the surface. Your heartbeat might stay steady, but inside the rhythm of regulation is off. And the snacks you reach for between meals could be part of the reason, not because you're careless, but because you've been taught to believe that if it says whole grain or plant protein, it must be good for you. But when you turn the package over, a different story unfolds. Multiple types of sugars, preservatives, refined starches, seed oils, ingredients that don't nourish but agitate. And when your body is already navigating the natural changes that come with age, slower digestion, decreased insulin sensitivity, less efficient repair, these small agitations stack up. You may not feel them right away, but over time, they chip away at resilience. That afternoon fog, that flutter in your chest, that nagging fatigue, they aren't random. They are the body's quiet cry for calmer fuel. You don't have to give up snacking. You simply have to feed your heart what it's truly asking for: stability, simplicity, strength. A handful of raw walnuts instead of a packaged bar, a slice of avocado on whole grain toast instead of flavored rice cakes. When your snack brings down stress rather than raising it, your heart notices. Your body thanks you in the language it speaks best: clearer energy, steadier rhythms, deeper calm. Somewhere along the way, eating less became the badge of honor. Portion control, meal skipping, smaller plates. It's been drilled into us that less food equals more health. And while there's wisdom in avoiding excess, for seniors, the story changes. Because after 60, your body is not only managing slower metabolism and hormonal shifts, it's also fighting to preserve muscle, maintain blood flow, and regulate stress. And when you chronically undereat, especially in the name of dieting, you're not freeing your heart, you're starving it of stability. Your heart is a muscle. It needs fuel. Not just calories, but nourishment that sustains the intricate dance of beating, pumping, and oxygenating. When you eat too little, too irregularly, or too restrictively, your body doesn't calmly adjust. It goes on alert. Cortisol rises, blood sugar drops, and your nervous system begins to brace for a famine it doesn't understand. And that state of bracing is its own kind of stress, a tension you don't always feel with hunger pangs, but with lightheadedness, sleeplessness, or a growing sense of fatigue that no nap seems to fix. Many seniors who think they're doing right by eating light are unknowingly pushing their bodies into survival mode. They skip breakfast, nibble through lunch, and feel wiped out by dinner. And even if they're eating healthy foods, the inconsistency and lack of fuel become a form of internal chaos. Your heart can't relax when it doesn't know when or what kind of energy is coming next. And over time, that unpredictability wears down the very systems that were meant to support longevity. The solution isn't overeating, it's honoring your body's need for rhythm, balanced, steady meals, enough protein to preserve strength, enough healthy fats to soothe inflammation, enough complex carbs to keep your system fueled without spikes. When you feed your heart with calm, consistent nourishment, it stops bracing for the next emergency. And in that stillness, it begins to heal. Because true strength, especially in the second half of life, comes not from restriction, but from wise, steady replenishment. You wanted to make a change. Maybe the doctor gave you a warning. Maybe you just felt it. Sluggish mornings, heavier steps, a sense that your body was asking for something different. So you did what felt right. You cleaned up your diet. You said goodbye to fried foods, tossed the chips, cut out the cookies. You loaded your cart with greens, grains, and all the right things. But weeks passed, and something felt off. You were doing everything clean, but you didn't feel clearer. You felt tired, and your heart, still heavy, still uneasy, still stressed. This is the paradox no one talks about. that even the most wholesome diet, if taken too far, can create new kinds of imbalances. You see, food is not just fuel. It's rhythm, warmth, comfort, and chemistry. When your meals become overly strict, overly raw, or overly cold in the name of purity, you may be robbing your body of the very thing it craves most: grounding. For seniors especially, digestion slows, circulation shifts, and the body thrives on warmth and stability. Too many raw vegetables, too few grounding fats, too much fiber without enough balance, it can all add up to internal stress. You may notice it in subtle ways: bloating after salads, chills that linger longer than they used to, a racing heart after a meal that was technically healthy. This isn't failure, it's feedback. Your body is telling you that while your intentions were pure, it needs nourishment that meets it where it is now. Cooked vegetables, warm broths, a bit of olive oil, a touch of sea salt, foods that digest easily, soothe inflammation, and actually allow your heart and gut to rest. Clean eating doesn't mean rigid eating, and health isn't built through restriction. It's built through harmony. You don't need to eat like you did in your 20s. You need to eat in a way that honors where your body is now. When you do, your digestion softens, your sleep deepens, your heart releases its grip, and you begin to remember what it feels like to be truly nourished, not just well-behaved. For decades, many of us believed skipping breakfast was harmless or even helpful. One less meal, fewer calories, a lighter start to the day. And in youth, perhaps the body could absorb that pattern without too much protest. But after 60, the equation shifts. Your metabolism no longer resets as easily. Your hormones behave differently. And the stress of waking with an empty tank isn't just felt in your stomach. It's registered deep in your nervous system, your circulation, and your heart. You may not feel hunger right away, but your body feels absence. Your cortisol levels, naturally highest in the morning, stay elevated longer. Your blood sugar dips and wavers. Your energy, already precious, becomes harder to stabilize. And when your heart doesn't receive a dependable source of energy early in the day, it begins operating in survival mode, preserving, bracing, tightening. This is not how your day should begin, especially not when your body is already doing the hard work of aging gracefully. Skipping breakfast can lead to a cascade of small misfires. You get lightheaded when you stand. You feel scattered before noon. You reach for caffeine or sweet snacks just to push through. And by evening, your body is playing catch-up, overeating, craving, storing. It's not weakness, it's biology. Your body, especially your heart, thrives on rhythm and support. Breakfast isn't about appetite. It's about anchoring your system with something warm, digestible, and steady. A bowl of oatmeal with chia seeds, a couple of boiled eggs with sautéed spinach, a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter. Simple, grounding, protective. When you begin your day with intention, not just motion, you tell your heart you're safe, you're supported, you can relax. And from that place of calm, everything functions better. Your thinking clears, your breath deepens, your energy holds. Breakfast is not a burden, it's a quiet gift to your body, a whisper to your heart that today it doesn't need to brace. It can simply beat, steady, supported, strong. You finish dinner and the day winds down. But then, a few hours later, something stirs. Maybe it's habit, maybe it's comfort, maybe it's a quiet hunger that's hard to name. You reach for a late-night snack, a few crackers, a scoop of ice cream, maybe some leftovers. It feels small, harmless. But inside your body, especially after 60, this timing matters more than most people realize. Because when your digestion is winding down and your heart is trying to enter rest mode, that late meal becomes a burden it didn't ask for. Your body thrives on cycles, day and night, activity and rest, eating and fasting. And as you age, your internal clock becomes more sensitive to disruptions in those cycles. A heavy or even moderate meal too close to bedtime sends conflicting signals to your system. Instead of preparing for deep, restorative sleep, your body shifts resources back to digestion. Blood flow is diverted, heart rate stays elevated, and insulin production is triggered at a time when it should be tapering off. The result? Fragmented sleep, nighttime blood sugar spikes, and a heart that never fully powers down. You may not feel this right away, but over time patterns emerge. Restlessness, waking up groggy even after a full night's sleep. That strange sense of heaviness in your chest or belly. And worst of all, your body's repair systems, the ones that restore your heart and tissues overnight, don't get the quiet time they need. The consequence is not just poor sleep, it's stress, hidden stress that lingers into the next day and quietly taxes your cardiovascular system. This doesn't mean you must go to bed hungry, it means honoring your body's natural rhythm. A light, early dinner, herbal tea before bed, a warm, protein-rich evening meal served at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep. When your body has time to digest before rest, your heart finds stillness, your breath slows, your dreams deepen, and your system heals, not just from the day, but for the days still to come. It starts with a good idea. A smoothie in the morning, a sports drink after your walk, a low-sugar soda at lunch, maybe a meal replacement shake in the evening. These drinks are marketed as smart, healthy, even essential. But here's the truth. When you're over 60, your body doesn't just process what you put in, it responds to how it's delivered. And liquid nutrition, especially when overused, can quietly strain the very systems you're trying to protect, especially your heart. Unlike solid foods, drinks move quickly through your digestive system. That means sugars, even natural ones like fruit juice or honey, hit your bloodstream faster, creating spikes in blood sugar and insulin. For younger people, that rise and fall might not leave a dent. But for seniors with slower metabolism and a more sensitive cardiovascular system, these swings are a kind of internal turbulence. Your heart beats harder, your nervous system activates, and over time, these subtle daily elevations in stress hormones begin to wear on your energy, your clarity, and your heart's resilience. Even sugar-free or diet drinks come with their own problems. Artificial sweeteners can confuse the body's hunger and fullness cues, trigger inflammation in sensitive individuals, and even impact gut bacteria, your internal allies in managing blood sugar, mood, and immune health. What feels like a small, harmless choice, a flavored water, a diet soda, a powdered mix, can become a daily dose of hidden tension inside your body. And that tension, day after day, slowly drains your vitality. You don't have to give up beverages altogether, but your heart wants simplicity, hydration from clean water, warm teas that calm rather than excite. If you want a shake, make it slow, thick enough to chew, rich in protein and low in sugar. If you love a morning smoothie, pair it with something solid so your body stays grounded. When your drinks become gentle companions instead of chemical intrusions, your body softens, your heart sighs in relief, and you stop pouring stress into your system sip by sip. You've probably heard it all your life. Eat less meat, cut back on red meat, go lighter on protein to protect your kidneys, your waistline, your heart. And while there's wisdom in not overdoing it, especially with heavy cuts and fried meats, the pendulum for many seniors has swung too far. A quiet fear of protein has crept into daily meals. And the result? A slow but steady loss of muscle, energy, and resilience, and a heart that's left to carry more than its share. Your heart is made of muscle. It depends on a strong musculoskeletal system to support its work. When protein intake drops too low, day after day, week after week, the body begins breaking down muscle to meet its basic needs. That includes not just arm or leg strength, but the very muscles that help you stand tall, breathe deep, and circulate blood efficiently. And when your lean mass declines, your metabolism dips, your insulin response weakens, and your heart faces a heavier burden with every beat. It's not about protein shakes or steak with every meal. It's about consistency, getting a steady dose of high-quality protein with each meal to help your body repair, rebuild, and regulate. For many seniors, this means aiming for around 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. That could be a couple of eggs and Greek yogurt at breakfast, lentils and quinoa at lunch, salmon or chicken with greens at dinner. Your body doesn't store protein the way it stores fat. It needs a regular supply, especially as it ages and absorbs nutrients less efficiently. When you start giving your body what it truly needs, not based on old diet rules, but on its current reality, you feel the shift. Your steps get steadier, your recovery improves, your heart doesn't have to work as hard to keep you upright and moving. Protein isn't just for building biceps, it's for keeping your heart strong, your rhythm steady, and your body grounded in strength, one balanced meal at a time. For years, the message was loud and clear: cut the salt to save your heart. And yes, for seniors with high blood pressure or certain heart conditions, reducing excess sodium is essential. But somewhere along the way, moderation turned into fear, and many older adults began cutting salt out entirely, only to find themselves dizzy, fatigued, foggy, and confused. Because while too much salt is harmful, too little can also disrupt the very systems you're trying to protect. Sodium plays a critical role in fluid balance, nerve signaling, and muscle contraction. And as you age, your kidneys handle salt differently, your thirst signals weaken, and medications like diuretics can flush out more than just water. If you're eating a low-sodium diet without thought or restricting out of fear, your electrolyte levels can drop too low. This can lead to irregular heartbeats, mental fatigue, muscle weakness, and in extreme cases, dangerous drops in blood pressure. What you thought was helping your heart might actually be adding to its stress. The signs are often subtle. You stand up and feel lightheaded. You wake up feeling drained instead of refreshed. You crave salty foods but ignore the impulse. And your doctor says your blood work looks fine, but you know something feels off. In many of these cases, it's not that salt is the villain. It's that the balance has been lost. Especially if your diet is clean, unprocessed, and home-cooked, you may actually need a pinch more salt than you realize, not from processed foods, but from thoughtful, moderate seasoning that supports hydration and circulation. Your heart doesn't want extremes. It doesn't want salt overload, but it also doesn't want to be stripped bare. It wants balance. Himalayan or sea salt used in modest amounts, broths with minerals, hydration paired with electrolytes, not just plain water. When you nourish your system this way, your blood pressure finds its rhythm, your energy steadies, and your heart stops sounding the silent alarm you never knew was ringing. It's not about fear, it's about understanding what your body truly needs now. It's easy to overlook fiber. It doesn't come in a flashy package or promise instant energy. It's not trendy and it doesn't taste like much. But for a senior heart, fiber is one of the most powerful allies you could ask for. And yet it's one of the most commonly missing elements in the modern diet, especially for those who focus heavily on protein, processed health snacks, or convenience foods. Fiber quietly slips away. And with it, so does a layer of protection your heart desperately needs. Fiber does more than keep digestion regular. It stabilizes blood sugar, reduces LDL cholesterol, and feeds the gut bacteria that regulate inflammation and mood. Without enough fiber, your blood vessels are more prone to plaque buildup, your insulin levels swing more erratically, and your gut lining weakens, allowing low-grade inflammation to spread throughout the body. It's that inflammation, that constant invisible fire, that places quiet pressure on your heart day after day, not through symptoms you can see, but through stress signals your heart can feel. You might think you're eating well, some vegetables here, a little fruit there, but unless you're consistently incorporating whole foods like lentils, beans, oats, chia seeds, and a variety of cooked vegetables, chances are your fiber is falling short. And this isn't just about digestion, it's about slowing the aging process from the inside out. Fiber acts like a gentle broom, sweeping away what doesn't serve your body, calming your blood sugar, supporting your liver, and giving your heart a lighter load to carry. Adding fiber doesn't have to mean overhauling your plate. It's a sprinkle of flax on your yogurt, a scoop of lentils in your soup, a handful of berries with breakfast. These tiny shifts can transform how your body handles stress. When your blood sugar stays even, your digestion smooths out, and your inflammation quiets down, your heart doesn't have to fight so hard. It gets to rest, to heal, to serve you not just longer, but better. And that's what this chapter of life is about. Nourishment that sustains, not just survives. Fat has worn many masks over the years. First the villain, then the misunderstood rebel, and now in some circles a hero. But for seniors, the truth is simpler and more profound. Fat is not the enemy of your heart. Certain fats, when chosen wisely and consumed in balance, are its quiet protectors. Yet many older adults, still influenced by decades of low-fat messaging, continue to avoid it, replacing it with starches, sugars, and processed fillers. And in doing so, they unknowingly remove one of the most powerful tools for lowering inflammation and supporting long-term heart function. Your heart needs healthy fats. Omega-3s reduce arterial stiffness. Monounsaturated fats help regulate cholesterol. Even small amounts of saturated fats in whole forms like eggs or pasture-raised butter can support hormone balance when consumed mindfully. But when fat is stripped from the diet entirely, it often leads to a cascade of unintended effects. Blood sugar spikes, constant hunger, dry skin, brain fog, and yes, an overworked heart trying to navigate a system constantly inflamed from refined carbs and low-fat, high-sugar substitutes. You might recognize it as a lingering fatigue after meals, a sharp craving for sweets in the afternoon, a sense that you're always snacking, never satisfied. That's not weakness. It's your body searching for the missing element that brings calm to your internal chemistry. Fat slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and signals safety to your brain. It's the nutrient that turns food into satisfaction and fuels your heart with long-burning energy instead of quick, jittery bursts. So welcome fat back to your plate, wisely. A drizzle of olive oil on roasted vegetables, a few slices of avocado with lunch, a spoonful of almond butter before bed. These aren't indulgences, they're medicine. Food is not just about what you remove, it's about what you include, intentionally and lovingly. And when fat is invited back, not as a fear but as a foundation, your body relaxes, your mind focuses, your heart softens into its rhythm again. Because peace in the body starts with nourishment that grounds, not deprives. The plant-based label has become a golden badge of health. Meatless patties, dairy-free yogurts, nut-based cheeses, and soy nuggets now line the shelves, promising compassion and wellness in a single bite. And while moving toward more plants can indeed support heart health, there's a hidden danger many seniors don't see. Not all plant-based foods are created equal, and when the shift toward plants is guided by packaging instead of ingredients, what's meant to heal can quietly harm. Many of these meat substitutes and vegan alternatives are ultra-processed, packed with stabilizers, gums, artificial flavors, added sugars, and industrial seed oils. They may be free of animal products, but they're not free of stress. These ingredients don't nourish, they mimic. And when eaten regularly, they create digestive burden, inflammation, and blood sugar instability. For a heart that already needs calm, these trendy replacements can become silent agitators, shaking the very foundation they claim to protect. You may feel it as bloating after a soy burger, a strange fatigue after that dairy-free shake, an ache in your joints or stiffness in the morning that's hard to explain. Your heart doesn't just respond to calories, it responds to chemistry. And if that chemistry is synthetic, confusing, or difficult to process, the stress will show up, quietly at first, then louder over time. The plant-based path, when built on real food, can be healing. But when it's paved with factory-made shortcuts, it becomes another layer of stress your body has to manage. So, take a closer look. Ask not just if it's plant-based, but if it's real. A lentil stew, sautéed kale, roasted sweet potatoes, or chickpea salad brings fiber, minerals, and calm. A microwaved meatless entree with 20 ingredients you can't pronounce brings confusion. Your body is wise. It knows the difference. And when you give it food that comes from the earth, not the lab, it rewards you with steady energy, smoother digestion, and a heart that doesn't have to brace for the next experiment. Just rhythm, just nourishment, just peace. You follow the rules, you measure your meals, avoid forbidden foods, skip dessert even when your heart aches for sweetness. You tell yourself it's discipline, that this is what health demands. And yet, deep inside, something feels tense. Meals feel clinical, eating feels mechanical, and though your plate may look perfect, your heart doesn't feel lighter. Because nourishment isn't just about nutrients, it's about how food makes you feel. And eating without joy, especially after 60, becomes its own form of stress. When meals are stripped of warmth, memory, and satisfaction, the nervous system senses lack, even in the presence of food. The result? A subtle but chronic sense of deprivation. Cortisol creeps up, cravings build quietly beneath the surface, and digestion suffers, not because of what's on your plate, but because of how your body is receiving it. Stress at the table doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your pulse, your breath, your ability to absorb the very nutrients you've worked so hard to choose wisely. Food was never meant to be a punishment. For much of your life, it was connection, a grandmother's stew, a shared holiday meal, a warm cup of soup on a cold day. And your heart remembers that. It thrives on rhythm, yes, but also on ritual, on flavors that speak of comfort, on meals that say you are cared for. When joy is absent, your heart has to work harder to fill the space left behind. And that kind of emptiness, emotional, sensory, spiritual, can be more harmful than the occasional indulgence ever could be. So invite joy back to your table, not through excess but through presence. Light a candle, use the good plate, sit down, breathe, savor. Eat meals you love in a way your body can handle. Warm, balanced, colorful, soulful. Let food be more than fuel. Let it be medicine for your spirit, not just your cells. Because when eating becomes a celebration instead of a chore, your body responds, not with rebellion, but with relief. And your heart? It remembers how to soften again, how to beat, not just to survive, but to enjoy. You've walked a long road. You've listened to advice from doctors, read articles, flipped packages over searching for hidden ingredients. You've tried, you've adjusted, and still, there have been days when your energy felt thin, your breath a little short, your sleep a little restless. You may have blamed age or stress or just bad luck, but now you know better. You know that your heart has been whispering all along, not with words but with symptoms. Fatigue, blood pressure, tension that wouldn't ease. It wasn't failure, it was feedback. And today, you begin to respond. You begin by seeing food not as a formula but as a rhythm. Not as restriction, but as remembrance. Remembrance of what your body truly needs now. Warmth instead of cold. Balance instead of spikes. Protein to preserve your strength. Fiber to clean and calm your system. Healthy fats to nourish your cells and stabilize your hormones. Water to carry everything gently through. You no longer need the fake promises of low-fat, sugar-free, heart-labeled boxes. You need meals made of real things. Grown, cooked, seasoned, and served with intention. Because the stress your heart has carried, the kind you couldn't see, didn't come only from chaos or grief or trauma. It came from being asked to work harder than it needed to pump against poor circulation, to keep pace with erratic blood sugar, to navigate meals that gave you numbers but no nourishment. And when that stress finally lifts, when your food begins to support rather than sabotage, you'll feel it. In your breath, in your sleep, in the ease with which you rise from your chair, in the steady beat within your chest. Let this be your return, not to the diet of your youth, but to the wisdom of this season. A chapter marked not by fear, but by clarity, not by rules, but by rhythm. You do not have to be perfect, you only have to be present. Listen, adjust, nourish. And trust that your heart, this quiet, faithful engine that has carried you through decades, still wants to thrive, not with restriction, but with relief, not through control, but through care. You are not too late. You are right on time to restore what matters most, peace within. And from there, everything else begins to heal.